All right, everybody, I'm back. Today, I'm going to show you a modification to a tubular lower control arm. The guy that owns this car wasn't aware that the control arm kit that he got with the car required a really small travel, really short travel shock coilover setup. And it's not really allowing the car to ride really comfortable and nice. I mean, even a coilover car should ride nice. It shouldn't be bouncy and be crazy driving. I mean, this car drives and handles just very weird. And it's a frame he bought from a supplier. I'm not gonna mention names and that stuff because we're not here to bash anybody. It's just that we got to modify it to suit the needs of my owner of the car a little bit better. So I'm going to show you the modification that I got to do to it, and just kind of maybe inspire some other guys to modify their stuff too. Okay, here's the coilover. I've already removed it from the lower perch right here, from the perch on the control arm, which is up here. And you can see the style. It's like a hairpin setup with got Heim joints right here, and got a screw-in Chrysler style ball joint right here. See the squares, the flat areas right here. Okay, and that's a Chrysler style. They screw in. They're pretty popular in the hot rod world. But as you can see, this bar is going across right here, and it's got the mounts for the lower control arm. Well, I got to re-engineer it differently, and I'll show you what I've done over here. Okay, so here's the other control arm off the passenger side. As you can see, I've made a jig. Took a piece of 3/4 pipe, and all I did was make a jig to space it from this Heim to this Heim, only so it won't deflect, move around, and shrink or open up wider. Because once I throw heat to this thing, it's going to move around a little bit. So anyway, what I've got going on here is, you can see I've bent a new piece of tubing. I'm going to curl it down, so I'll increase the distance from up here for the shock. And I've made a little jig as well for the shock mount itself. You can see where the cut some grooves in it, and it's going to sit on here like this, and I've got to turn it. I got to pivot it down so I can be able to get a bolt through the side right here. If I set it directly on top, well, if I can hold on to it, if it's set it on the top like that, I won't be able to get the bolt in right here where my finger is, this area right here, because the tube will be in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify it, weld this tube in. I'm going to weld this tube in right here, and then I'm going to clock it down just ever so slightly so the bolt can come in through the side right here. And that will allow us to get the control arm, as you can see how low it'll be. You can see how it dips down right there. But so that's, if you're looking to modify a control arm, it's not that bad. Now, just make sure when you do it, you measure your distance from the center line right here to the center line of this. Now, on the other control arm, it bolts straight down. The shock comes straight down on top. And those ears I just showed you were straight up. Something like this. But the bar was straight across. Well, it's a good design. It's for lateral force and down pressure and all that stuff. That's awesome. But always make sure you measure from here to the center line of where the shock is. Sometimes that geometry, if you go closer to the pivot point of the control arm, you're not going to have enough travel in your spring or your shock, so you're not going to get the full effect of what the shock can do for you. But if you bring it out, in this one here, I might bring it out just a 1/2 inch more, just so it be a little bit more of an easier cushion, I guess you could say. The pivot point would be a little more forgiving on the geometry, because they got it pretty much. It's not up and down, straight up and down, but it's the degrees on it doesn't look like it should work the way other systems work. So, But anyway, that's part of that situation right there. Okay, so you can see where the shock is, and these are short travel shocks right here. The travel of the shock up here, you can see where it doesn't move. You know, it has about 1.5 inches worth of travel. So we're trying to increase the travel of the lower control arm, which would mount right here and then go over here to the lower spindle. But we're trying to show you a different way of making room for a longer shock. So the shock that we're going to go with is QA1, and it's got dampening right here on the bottom. As you can see, it's got dampening right here. And what that does is just allows the shock itself to dampen while going up or coming down. If you turn that knob and try to push this down, you'll see the dampening of the shock, how it works. Of course, more it's hard as crap to push down, less it's easier to push down. So depending on how you want the car to ride and the shock to react, you just turn that little fancy dial. Okay, we've got solid Ferriscool balls in here instead of like rubber or neoprene, whatever. Not neoprene, but polypropylene. But you can see it's a longer shock. It's a lot longer than what we got. And if you pull it out, it's got so much more travel. That other shock has about 1.5 inches travel. As you can see, this one has about 3 inches of travel. Well, because it's a taller shock, we had to make more room. Okay, as you can see, this is the finished product right here. Had to take out this section. Used to go straight across, and these two ears were straight up, and they stuck. They probably stuck about this high, and we had to run such a short shock. This will allow us to run a little bit longer travel shock and a little taller spring to allow for a better ride. But as you can see, the company who made these things, I mean, they did a nice job making them. They used the Chrysler square screw-in type ball joint. And all I did was take some 3/4 inch pipe, bend it, make a hook. As you can see, it hooks down. And then I reorientated the ears, and you can just barely sneak a bolt by through here to get it on there. But that's what it looks like for that car. All right, here's the finished product, bolted back onto the car. As you can see, had to put a hoop going down with the ears up for the shock, and it mounts up there. Shock comes down here. It's got Heim joints right here, but you know, it's just what it is. Sometimes you have to reinvent the wheel sometimes. But this video is just to kind of give you an idea that you can alter things from their original format to suit your needs. Now, if this was an air ride system, I would have taken this out. I would have put a pocket right here and allowed the airbag to sit inside that pocket for an air ride system. So, you know, keep that in mind when you're altering your suspension for different ride products. And you got air shocks, you got. Well, there you have it, guys. That's me trying to modify a control arm, and it's a hot rod control arm. It's nothing factory, so you know, someone else hand built them, so why not me hand build them? I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not a big deal. I mean, anybody can cut, weld, as long as your welds are good and solid. Make sure you have penetration. Make sure you grind the areas, because you know they do put coating on that steel, and you can weld through it, yeah, in typical situations, but this is going to require some serious pressure because the coilovers are holding the car up. So you definitely want to make sure you have penetration to make sure the welds are good, and incorporate, you know, areas of stress so you know that it can handle the load that you're getting ready to put on it. But until next time, remember, I'm an honest guy trying to run an honest business.